Welcome to this episode of the Conspiracy Cast right here on Tales of Earth. I almost said Film Circuit. That's my channel.
Stole the
I hit
show.
record, right?
Yes.
You know what?
Bend
I
it.
have to check. No, I know. I have to check.
I really hope you did, because that was a great opener.
That was a good opener.
That was a great opener.
I was like, that was too perfect.
We are recording?
Yeah, we are.
Okay.
I always get nervous when I press it because I'm like, did I press it?
Yes.
I don't usually press it.
A show where we sit down from a standing position. We three non-experts discuss a conspiracy of some kind. Then we decide whether or not we believe it and why or why not. We give our reasons because, discussions. We do this live on twitch.tv/eligiblemonster every Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern. You can support us by subscribing to this channel. You can also support us by purchasing some merchandise from the link below. Also, still a band I'm going to start.
What, the link below?
The link below.
I like it.
It's a good band.
Or you can go to patreon.com/comicstorian, where you can get early access to this show as well as other shows. Today we have with us Andy. I always start with Dan.
You do.
I'm
Yeah.
a second class. I understand. It's fine.
Just say second
I'm
class.
second class. It's fine. I'm a 6 at best.
Okay.
And I'm okay with that.
Just because he's British doesn't make him superior. Well,
Unless
I
I'm
mean a
using the
little,
accent,
a
then I'm
little
sorry.
bit, yeah.
I mean,
Your
I can
IQ
do
actually
that.
goes up.
It does.
Like, let me solve this problem. Wait, I'm using the wrong accent.
Yeah.
And you use, yeah.
Oh, I thought you were going to try to do an accent.
I thought he was.
I'm no good at accents.
I thought he was gonna bust that.
Yeah, where can they find you?
I am Brian the Andy on Instagram.
Yeah.
And
Dan?
if they want me, I am Dan, by the way. And you can find me Dan T Producer on
want
Twitter
Dan,
and Instagram.
Want Dan.
Or Dan T Streamer on Twitch.
You can find him on Tinder at... Oh.
You can find me on YouTube at Film Circuit, Twitter at Film Circuit, and Instagram at Northward Films. Guys, have you ever reverse engineered technology from an alien spacecraft?
Not from an alien spacecraft.
I'm not at liberty to discuss it, honestly.
Have you ever had a flash or a vision come to your mind and immediately knew how to build a machine?
No.
I'm not at liberty
You've never had
to
blueprints
discuss-
just like pop into your
Not
mind?
blueprints.
One
I've
time.
had good
One
clear
time.
ideas.
But it was for like a killer enchilada. It was really good.
Blueprints for an enchilada.
Well, I mean, recipes
alien
like...
grade.
Yeah, alien grade enchilada. and
Reverse
it
engineered alien.
was
An alien enchilada.
fantastic.
An alien enchilada.
No, just stop. Just
Yeah?
stop.
I think it
Keep
kinda-
going, Gary.
It kind of works.
So, as usual, our information for this episode comes from insiders. I believe that there's an insider convention
I'm sure there is.
held
Oddly
in,
enough,
held
outside.
In, yes, held in outside in New York on November 12th every year. They tried to go for November 11th, but the Corduroy Club has taken that.
I don't know.
I won't be able to go to this year because it's a Disney Plus day. So.
Is that a joke on the fact that it's 11/11?
No, that's actually, there's a real Corduroy Club, like Corduroy fan club.
Like
that
the pants?
meets-
It's gotta be-
Like the material?
Like the material
Yes.
that meets
I
on
didn't have-
11/11.
And it's got to be 11/11 because
Yes.
it's corduroy.
Thank you.
Right.
You caught, yeah.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, so when it was
Which
11/11.
is also the same day as Skyrim came out, for the record, 11/11/11.
Yes, it was. That will always stick in my mind.
Yep.
So did Clash of the Titans,
That one I did not.
because the trailer did the same reveal for the date that Skyrim did. It was the little like title and 11/11. Anyway, just those things just stick in your mind somehow.
This is all conspiracy, guys. It's 11.
yeah.
That's the conspiracy. Some people think it's 23. Some people think it's 19. It's 11.
It's 11.
I just want you to know
hate it
that
when
during
you always do
that quick cut, I reverse engineered microphones to be taller.
And not by stacking
And
books
not by
underneath them.
stacking books, because there's clearly
I like how you're
nothing.
definitely
Yes.
hiding them.
So before we talk about
Nothing
reverse,
here. What are you talking about?
before we talk about reverse engineering, which you seem to be an expert on,
I had a flash of a blueprint in my mind.
Yes.
And I made it work.
we need to define reverse engineering so that there's no mistake as to what exactly we're talking about.
Okay.
The internet defines reverse engineering as the reproduction of another manufacturer's product following detailed examination of its construction or composition. So reverse engineering is more often than not used as a term for alien spacecraft like conspiracies, but it's also something people do all the time.
Yes.
When you're working with computer code, you reverse engineer computer code. It's a common practice in tech. So it happens all the time. In the world of alien reverse engineering conspiracy theories, there's no one more famous than Bob Lazar?
Bob Lazar, of course. I mean,
Bobby Lazar.
yeah, good old Bobby.
Lazar. Sounds like a
Bobby L.
Sounds like a lawyer from New Jersey.
Name's Bobby Lazar. No practice
right.
lawyer.
So this article comes from thedailybeast.com, also a website I've never heard of.
No, it's definitely. I'm
but
on
I found
it all
this
the
article
time,
very
honestly.
interesting. What?
I'm on it all the time.
Okay.
They get the real facts.
He
They
writes
do.
it.
Well, the sub, like the top title says, "The truth is out there."
There
I
you
wonder
go.
where they got that from. Why did the FBI raid the home of the biggest alien truther?
I don't know, Gary. Why?
I feel like there's a joke coming on.
Because I don't know, I got nothing. In December 2017, the New York Times revealed the existence of a top secret government program called Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification. The quote, the program produced documents that describe sightings of aircraft that seem to move at very high velocities with no visible signs of propulsion, or that hovered with no apparent means of lift. The Times reported, as New York Magazine explained in a summary of the piece, the internet went slightly more bananas than usual last week over bananas.
Slightly more.
Over the New York Times, because people on the internet don't jump to conclusions.
Oh, no,
Never.
definitely not.
The New York Times story implying that extraterrestrials are real and the U.S. government has been tracking them for years. The paper of records reporting was, long-awaited validation for anyone who has ever claimed a UFO sighting or an inexplicable encounter with the beyond. While the expose was far from definitive, it appeared to be the important step forward, and I told you so for people like Bob Lazar, the subject of Jeremy Corbell's new documentary, Bob Lazar, Area 51 and Flying Saucers. In 1989, there's just a little background on the guy. In 1989, a then anonymous Bob Lazar put Area 51 on the map when he came forward with his unbelievable story. Lazar said that he studied captured alien technology at a site called S4 near the Desert Test Facility. Almost 30 years later, Lazar's story has changed, but our collective capacity for incredulity has certainly been tested. Okay. And Bob Lazar has been patiently waiting for us for a film. Okay, blah, blah. Okay. They talk about Mickey Rourke. Let's skip ahead there.
Of course. I mean, when it comes to aliens, Mickey Rourke's the first
Mickey Rourke, yeah.
person that comes to mind.
Okay.
As you
Lazar
do.
first made his waves as an anonymous scientist. He told the media about Area 51 and claimed that there were 9 discs of extraterrestrial origin, so essentially like 9 ships, being tested and studied there. He insisted that he had no idea how the government got their hands on these spaceships and that his life had been threatened over this information. Lazar called the government secrecy a crime against the scientific community, who had been robbed of the opportunity to study and reckon with this otherworldly technology. When Lazar eventually did go public, it was in a series of interviews with journalist George Knapp, who has been described as the best known above ground correspondent on the ET beat. That's what I call him all the time.
He's best known for the
Yes.
longest title.
It's wordy. He's still working on it.
Wordy.
Yeah.
Knapp first appeared in the documentary providing background on Lazar and warning Corbell that he might not want to talk. Quote, he doesn't like the attention, Knapp explains. It totally screwed up his life, which is why they're making a documentary about him. Because, if you don't like being in the public eye,
You make a documentary.
you make a documentary about yourself.
I mean, to be fair, when you want people to not know about you, you do make a documentary because then people go, well, that's boring.
That's true. Actually, yeah. That's a solid point. Unless you put it on
Yes.
Netflix.
Unless it's on Netflix with a cool title.
Yeah.
It does not sound like a documentary.
Lazar quotes, it's a fantastic story, but it's true. Lazar continued, these crafts come from another solar system entirely, and they're here. So his claim,
How can he
and I'll
prove
just
that
stop-
they're
I'll just
from
stop there.
another solar system?
That is fair.
Well, he can't. That's
Just
kind
saying.
of the thing. Let's see here. The mountains appear to float on dry lake. Okay, never mind. So Bob Lazar claims to have worked at Area 51.
Right.
At
Okay.
at like an offsite called S4,
S4.
where he worked on several different extraterrestrial aircrafts.
Okay.
I believe the government didn't even tell him, according to him, how they got them. But
Okay.
he was tasked with another team to reverse engineer these spacecrafts.
Well, they're not doing a very good job of it, as far as we know.
As far as we know.
as we know.
That's a good point, actually.
He actually leaked the information to Elon Musk, and that's how SpaceX started.
Smart.
So I did.
Yeah, clearly you didn't watch the documentary.
Yes.
Obviously not.
Teslas are reverse engineered spacecraft.
I
would believe that.
honestly
I would
would
believe
not
that.
be
Yeah,
surprised,
yeah.
especially because if you think about it, now that you've said that, their symbol could be a UFO beaming someone up.
True.
Just saying.
Good point.
I always thought it was a T.
No.
That's what they want you to think.
That's what they want you to think.
But look at it closer.
It's like,
a
isn't the
UFO beaming you
Hyundai
up.
symbol like two guys shaking hands or something, technically?
I thought it was an
No
H.
I guess.
I have no idea. Don't usually look into the car symbols that closely.
No, me either.
So naturally, Lazar's story was highly contested at the time. Most notably, reporters were unable to verify that he attended Caltech and MIT as he claimed. Los Alamos denied his testimony that he worked there, but his name was found listed in a 1982 phone book for the lab among the other scientists, and a 1982 clipping from the Los Alamos newspaper describing him as a physicist at the Los Alamos Mason Physics Facility. Officials at Los Alamos insisted that they had no records at all of Lazar. It's as if someone made him disappear. An old news clip. And what? Who wrote this?
Well, the Daily Beast.
Some of these things are just throwing me off, despite the fact that I've read most of this before. So
It's
some of it-
changing
read
each
some
time.
of it. So he basically claims, like he makes these claims on his history at Area 51.
Okay.
Reverse engineering, which obviously he can't prove.
Right. Yes.
Well, he can prove the reverse engineering. He just can't prove what he was reverse engineering.
Yes, exactly. He's actually, I've watched clips of the guy. He actually will like draw the ship and how it works, and he'll explain the math, and he'll explain how the different like propulsion systems work together. And he even went on to explain that when one of these ships leaves the atmosphere and goes interstellar, essentially, that he said, normally you think that the ship would remain flat and it would fly off like a normal ship, but it actually goes belly up, and that's how it flies. And so he makes these like really odd claims that are just weird enough to make sense, like.
Or
True,
they're like weirdly specific
Yeah,
enough that
yeah.
it's kind of like the whole you can't make this stuff up kind of saying.
Right.
Yeah. Like to claim that one of these flying saucers goes belly up in order to fly interstellarly,
Right.
or faster than light. So, very interesting guy, but he is at the forefront of the reverse engineering, like conspiracy theories.
Right.
And other people have tried to discredit him because he was involved in some like brothel incident.
That sounds like a conspiracy cover-up right there, just for the record.
That or just because somebody was involved with a brothel does not discredit their story as being true.
Yes, it does.
Everyone has needs.
Everyone knows that those who would work on alien spacecraft do not need to pay for prostitutes.
No, they don't. No, they don't.
Scientists in
Obviously.
New Mexico. New Mexico? Where is this?
Yes.
New
Yeah.
Mexico. They definitely.
So yeah, the FBI raided his home as well. So what I find interesting is that we have newspaper clippings that corroborate his story.
Yes.
Hold on. So the FBI raided his home.
Yes.
See, that right there is a full-on cover-up. Because let's be honest, if you know
just
they don't have anything, you
Why
don't
you
need
were
to
raiding their home,
like,
yeah.
because it's not even they showed up and asked or had a warrant. They raided his own. Like, that's an actual big deal.
Yeah.
Now, if you were to claim something like, "Hey, the president is a lizard person," and you actually had some like credentials behind you, if you're a person who had no credentials at all, and you obviously were just kind of
Right. Yeah.
they're a little out there,
Right.
The government wouldn't like bat an eye. But if the president is actually a lizard person,
Right.
and you have credentials, they're
They're
like,
gonna be like, well, we probably should raid.
we should probably raid his house.
Also, he went to brothels, just so you know.
Yeah. Paid prostitutes.
Yeah, because
Kicked puppies.
People can't spot a red herring.
See, that would make me immediately discredit
him,
anyone.
yeah.
If I
What?
heard that
kick
Bob
puppies.
Lazar kicked a puppy,
Yeah.
Right there.
Nope.
Can't trust him.
Can't be a
Can't
scientist.
trust-
Scientists don't kick puppies.
scientists do not.
People who reverse engineer things, they don't do that.
No.
Yeah. But people have
I
actually
hope.
tried to discredit
I
him
hope.
based on that, like almost by itself.
Yeah. That's
Like, well, he was involved in. He's obviously a liar because
Yeah.
he was at a brothel.
Right.
no one ever pays for sex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what I also find interesting about his story is that the newspaper clippings corroborate his story.
Yes.
Official records do not,
Which is weird.
which is weird.
Yes.
Not really.
Which I find really strange.
I mean, if
No,
it's
no,
in a-
I'm not saying the fact that they don't corroborate his story. That's not the weird part. It's that one does and one doesn't. Because obviously,
Yes.
official records you could very easily scrub. That's
That's
that would
Exactly.
But you would think they would have also thought to go get the newspaper clippings.
I mean,
like somebody was like, I'm sure that'll be fine. It'll be good.
So
unless it also feeds into the conspiracy that if they don't have information but someone else does, then clearly there's a information discrepancy, making it seem like this other source might have come up with it because there is nothing to compare. Whereas if both mysteriously go missing, then people start going, why did both mysteriously go missing?
Yeah.
I'm definitely not involved in cover-ups.
No, not at all. Not at all. But I can just imagine being in his position, where you are, maybe he is telling the truth. And imagine you were a part of a government project, you were reverse engineering alien technology. And so you come out with this information kind of almost to protect yourself. Like if I make this really public,
right?
Yeah,
there's less likely a chance of them killing me.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Right.
Imagine going through all of that and then having the government scrub your record. Basically, make it almost like you don't exist. Right. Almost like you don't exist. You didn't go to the school. You didn't get the degree that you got. How frustrating would it be for people simply not to believe you because your story is slightly unbelievable?
Right. So the public
thing, you're telling the truth, but nobody else does.
Because there was a public thing recently. It didn't fully relate to this, but in the way of coming out so that people believe you.
Yes.
There was someone, I can't remember who it was, but they posted a picture and they essentially stated in it that they are, and this is a weird tangent, that they were not going to kill themselves. They had nothing about that. And if they go missing or die, someone is they came out specifically to say that. Which kind of sounds similar to this in the sense of you want to get it out to protect yourself in the public eye, because then it becomes if he said this and then he goes missing, people connect
like he
dots.
claimed he would,
exactly.
Or he's just a nut job.
But either way, I mean, it's honestly it's kind of a smart thing when you're in a
generally
dangerous
the
situation
FBI
like
doesn't
that.
raid homes of people who are just making stuff up.
Exactly.
Not usually. They're just okay, crazy person.
Yeah,
whatever.
especially when national security isn't on the line.
Yeah.
If national security were on the line and he was talking about, I don't know.
Yeah, he was like, "There's aliens out there, and I'm gonna show them."
Right.
And then you find out he's building bombs.
Because it's also FBI.
Yeah.
Because there is the whole thing of streamers getting swatted.
Yes.
Where it's that's local police.
Right.
That's a
this
more
is the FBI.
But FBI, there's a lot of things that have to go through the works before they even get involved.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I like this one so far, for the record. I'm liking this.
Me too. Yeah. So, and that's kind of the point, is that if anyone is going to discredit him, it's not going to be the public. It's going to be the government.
It's going to be the people that want to cover it up.
Yes, that want to cover it up. Exactly. So do you think, because there's not much more to go on, I mean, it's not like the guy can bring any physical proof.
What if he start reverse engineering again? He's based off his memory. He's like, well, hold on, let me build you this phaser that I also.
Well, he made some claims. I believe it was back in the 80s. He made claims that they discovered a new element called element 115.
Okay.
And that element was, I think, within just the past few years. Let me just corroborate this.
I believe we've got even more elements than that now, so I wouldn't be surprised if this is real.
Element 115. I believe it's 115. 2003. So in 2003, this element was added. So he claimed that the government discovered this element because of the alien technology
in the 80s.
I think it was maybe even in the 70s.
Really?
He brought out this information in the 80s.
Right.
So he said, they discovered this element 115, total fiction until 2003.
When they discovered this element.
When they discovered the element 115.
So based on, because for those of you not reading, it was discovered, according to that, jointly by the United States and the Soviet Union in 2003, and it was in Russia. Makes me actually, what was that?
It says he smuggled it out of Area 51.
Oh, okay. Because I was thinking I do understand he's reverse engineering things, and part of me is wondering as well of, is it's similar to previous discussions we've had, is it an alien spacecraft, or was it perhaps a Russian aircraft that landed, they didn't tell him. Because then that's why I was thinking, well, if the element was partially found in Russia,
maybe they had already discovered it.
Exactly. It would make sense why they may have gotten that, didn't tell people, used it.
During the Cold War, you don't want to come out that we captured a bunch of things.
Reverse engineers wants to go, hey, they got a new element, let's one up them and make element 116. Because
we do it twice.
That's the real space race.
We already have 116. We went past
it. What I find interesting about that is written in 2010 is Russia is making flying saucers.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. Literally what it says. Russia's latest endeavor to produce, this is almost 10 years ago. Russia's latest endeavor to produce commercial-grade, lighter-than-air aircraft seems a little strange. The aerostatic thermoballasted vehicle.
Catchy name, I like it.
Rolls off the tongue.
Yep, from Lokomo Sky. Looks like something straight out of a 1950s UFO movie.
It does.
The flying saucer shape isn't just for show, though. It helps the aerostat travel through the air with a minimum loss of energy to air resistance. So you can find, you just go on YouTube, go on their archives of World War II footage, Cold War footage of the U.S. and foreign governments working on flying saucers. Like objects that look like flying saucers.
Right.
So even if he was working on flying saucers, maybe it was from Russia.
Doesn't necessarily mean it was aliens.
Doesn't necessarily mean it was aliens. They just didn't tell him where they found it.
Right.
Exactly.
For their sakes. And they said, reverse engineer this. They've discovered some element over there. That
probably for his sake too, because you don't want him saying, oh, I've got this Russian spacecraft. Somehow the Russians find out, and then there's even more stuff going on.
And the Kremlin is raiding his apartment. Yeah. Because they can.
They totally can. Just as FBI agents.
Oh. Yeah, why not? I should have joined in that moment.
You should have.
I was drinking my coffee. You guys were like, thoughts before I move on to the next section of what do you think about Bob Lazar, his claims, because that's all they are right now. I
think regardless of where the spacecraft came from, this is probably the most believable of all the conspiracies we've
cover-ups.
done a cover-up. This is the most believable of the government did not want this information getting out. Whatever their reasoning, whether it was spacecraft, Russia, a different country,
something,
anything like that, that's an entirely different question, but there does seem to be a conspiracy of discrediting and covering up what Bob Lazar did.
Yeah, definitely. What do you think?
Honestly, I agree. Yeah, this would probably be the most clear cut, I would say, of some form of a cover up.
Yeah.
Regardless of what it might actually end up being, but something along those lines.
Now, the thing that points to these flying saucers being extraterrestrial is that he claims they were extraterrestrial. I think you can
But he doesn't claim to have seen aliens. He just claims to have seen aircraft.
They had 9 of these ships.
Yeah.
Which I find interesting, but you can step into another country's vessel.
Sure.
And you can tell immediately, this is human.
True,
this is Chinese.
Good point.
This is Russian written here. I found a book.
Yes and no.
I found some graham crackers.
I didn't realize all the Chinese people had tentacles. How are they controlling this thing?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's not your
conclusion.
There's
a cup holder that's probably for a Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing, though, is while we do want to say that, at the same time, if this is the first of its kind, let's say we have a space shuttle, and no one else in the world even knows what that is or anything like that, and when it came back, it landed in another country, and they opened it up, they wouldn't know what's inside. They wouldn't because they don't even have the concept yet.
Well, to an extent, but what you're talking about is that's a big difference in technological and linguistic development. I mean, they need labels on things in ships,
and obviously things are let's say hypothetically, I've never seen a re-entry capsule.
Yeah.
Okay. But one lands, and they kind of look like a flying saucer a little bit.
They do.
So I see one land. I go over. I open it up. For whatever reason, there's not somebody in it.
Right.
We'll say that obviously I can see as human.
Right.
But I would still be able to tell. Okay, these are switches. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right.
See, and that, but
Now,
that's
if everything
because-
was like liquidy and
Right.
melding around, I'd be like, all right, that's a little odd.
But you would see labels like.
But yeah, there
even
would be something that tells me,
yeah.
okay, this was probably at least made by humanoids.
Bottle of vodka shoved
But
in
something,
the seat,
yeah.
But see, that's the thing, though, is because we have never seen
Yeah.
anything from anything we can concretely say is from an alien race, we can't say that they don't do the same. I mean,
Like they have labels on their crap.
Well, what if,
Yeah.
like, I
Little
mean, what if they
diagrams that
have
show,
like
like, up
a
and down.
language, like, because I mean, Russian, for example,
Right.
their language is very different from what we have.
Yep.
Like, who's to say other races or species out there do not have the same concept of, oh yeah, to turn this on, you flip a switch.
Like similar,
Right.
Like, I mean, physics
similar design.
are physics.
Similar design.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
Or even a written language that looks like it could come from Earth. Yeah.
exactly. Like, there are so many different possibilities for the way that things work
Yep.
that you cannot always say this is exactly this, because it also becomes well, if it's very, very top secret, perhaps they did have labels, but because of how top secret it was, the initial prototypes were completely scrubbed to have no labels in there so that
Possible.
no one could trace it back
Right,
to
yeah.
them or reverse
Yep.
engineer it to go, wait a second, Bob Lazar is doing some crazy
Right,
shenanigans.
right.
Like, there are so many possibilities that when it comes to new technology, you can't say whether or not it's human made or alien, because if it's brand new to you, like it's
Yeah.
brand new to
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
It's the concept of I mean, going through the liquid thing. If I'm going to use time travel for an example real quick of if you took liquid cooled computers nowadays and showed it to people back then, or like back when computers first started
Right,
being
right.
made,
Yeah.
they would look at it and go, that's alien.
Right.
Like there's liquid near
It literally
these-
says Alienware
Exactly.
on it.
And it's got a
Right. But like you can't, like because of the fact that we
they
don't
labeled
have
it such a way.
concrete.
Yeah. In English, too.
Exactly. It's
very strange,
But like there is no, because we have no concrete proof of things from outer space
That we know of.
that we know of.
That we know of. Yeah.
I mean, actually, that
Yeah.
brings up a whole new thing
Yeah.
right there. What if we do have tons of things from outer space,
And
but
that's
it
how we
is-
got a lot of our.
but
Well,
it
I mean,
is
that's
so
yeah.
similar
that's a
to
very
what
popular
we
theory.
have.
Yeah, that's a popular theory. Is that after Roswell, kind of going back to our topic on Roswell,
Right.
After Roswell, we did experience a massive technological boom,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a technological boom that was, to this day, has been unprecedented.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, from the 1940s, so you're looking at like to the late 70s, digital content is created. Computers are like rapidly advanced.
Right.
The technology for cell phones becomes standard. The first text was sent in the 70s. Video games. What else? MP3 players.
Yep.
I mean, our modern age really started to come to fruition in the late 70s.
Yeah.
When all that technology was just in its infancy. And so, yeah, within like a 20, 25, 28 year period, technology just explodes.
Yeah.
And we go to the moon. I mean, you look at what happens between 1947
Yeah.
and like 1969, and we've never seen anything like that in the history of mankind.
Yeah.
And you know, the same argument can be made that like you look at like 1889 to 1947, and it's
Yep.
the same kind of.
We've suddenly had
explosion.
cars and flying,
Right,
you know,
exactly.
yeah, flying machines and
Yeah, but it was also very analog.
Yeah.
It was from the 40s and 50s on that everything became very computerized.
Yes.
Yep.
So that's, one theory. They also did an episode like that in Star Trek Voyager. Yeah.
It all comes back to
pretty
Star
much,
Trek.
It always does. And yeah. So the other person we're going to talk about is Nikola Tesla. Most people don't consider Nikola Tesla when we think about reverse engineering. The reason I bring him up specifically is that reverse engineering, it doesn't always have to be physical. You don't always have to reverse engineer something you literally have your hands on.
Right.
Nikola Tesla claimed to have had flashes of like blueprints and visions just come to him. And he immediately knew how to make the machine or the device or
Right.
whatever it was. It would just pop into his head, and he knew how to make it. Some people claim that it was extraterrestrials beaming information into his head, but it's still not quite.
He was a weird guy.
He was an interesting guy.
possible.
Others claim that he was tapped into the Akashic field, which is like the field of information in the universe. Like it's this like
Okay.
It's basically the embodiment of knowledge and information on this like. Almost on this like quantum level.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't even know how to truly describe it.
But
sometimes people can tap into it,
right?
Which
it's
is
like
where a lot of our technological booms come from,
right?
Because people tap into this
Akashic field.
Yeah, like I don't know, it's like almost like a metaphysical.
Yeah, or the Akashic files.
It's like the white space between everything.
Kinda, sort of idea.
It's always there, and unless you seek it out, you're just not going to get it.
Yeah.
You know. Here's a little article on Nikola Tesla. This actually comes from 1949.
The article?
The article, yes. So it comes from the Nikola Tesla articles.
Well, there you go. That makes sense.
Contemporary with Edison was another inventor, not so well known, but very well known now. Believe it or not, there was a time when Tesla was fringe. He was not popular. He was not very well known to the most of the educated world,
right?
Or not educated, but like literate world. But of the two, the more spectacular, this was Nikola Tesla, whose life and works have been enthrallingly described by John J. OK. Blah, blah, blah. He was aware as a boy that he was not like other boys in his thoughts, in his amusements, and in his hobbies. He could do the things that other lads his age usually do, and many things that they could not do. It was these latter things that interested him most, and he could find no companions who would share his enthusiasms for them. This situation caused him to isolate himself from contemporaries and made him aware that he was destined for an unusual place, if not great accomplishments in life. Let's see here. Quote, a strange power permitted him to perform unusual feats in mathematics. He possessed it from early boyhood, but had considered it a nuisance and tried to be rid of it because it seemed beyond his control. Nikola Tesla needed no model to test his inventions. They appeared before his eyes as functioning realities that he could stop and start as though they were really there. If he thought of an object, it would appear before him in exhibiting the appearance of solidity and massiveness. So greatly did these visions possess the attributes of actual objects that it was usually difficult for him to distinguish between vision and reality. This abnormal faculty functioned in a very useful fashion in his schoolwork with mathematics. I'll pause there for a second.
So basically what it's saying is that he would actually see whatever he was trying to invent in front of him and could not tell whether it was real or not.
Exactly.
And then basically built it.
He could interact with it.
He could
interact with it. There's a little quote here that says, see, exclaimed Tesla, how beautifully it works. Watch me put it into reverse.
And he's like standing there with nothing.
That's exactly what, Watch it. Is it not marvelous how it goes both ways? But his friends saw nothing.
See,
I would say he was just a crackpot, but he did actually invent the thing. That's the thing.
And he had control over it.
You want to know what this sounds like? It sounds like this Nikola Tesla was the original beautiful mind. But instead of seeing a person, he saw
machines.
His mind was stuff like that. And
right. Because I can imagine, like, if I want to invent something, I can start to imagine how it functions. But I can still discern between a thought and reality.
Right.
It sounds like that wall for him just wasn't there.
Yeah.
But then he did actually go about building a lot of them.
Yeah.
Not always, because he did have a lot. I know there was a lot of things they found, blueprints for machines that he never actually made and things like that, or notes for things that he never actually created. But a lot of the things he did end up creating. So
yes, he did.
So you can't be like, oh, he's just a crackpot who's like imagining this thing that's never going to exist when he actually did create a lot of it.
And one of the interesting stories about Tesla is that on the night he was born, there was supposedly this like massive lightning storm, this massive electrical storm the night he was born.
What year was he born?
Let me double check on that. I don't know off the top of my head. Talk, Dan.
I don't see. I legit actually put this on the same level as the beautiful mind thing of
1856.
It sounds 1856
Croatia.
Okay. Oh, interesting. But it sounds like January 1st. It sounds more like he's just getting good ideas and has
overactive imagination.
Yeah, something where he does have hallucinations, and they just happen to be more productive hallucinations as opposed
right,
to
yeah.
what a lot of it's almost like going like two people have the same like mental disease or something like that, where they hallucinate and his brain is just more intellectual and works in a different way. That
so it's more like a useful hallucination.
Exactly.
Right,
yeah.
right.
Like that's what this one sounds like, that he's just having very, very good ideas, which
yes,
and then kind of just hallucinates
have,
them into existence.
Exactly.
Right.
Like he has such an active imagination or a hallucination thing that when he has ideas, instead of, because I mean, a lot of these things that he says he sees physically, whenever I have an idea of really anything, I can see most of it in my head, and I feel like if I did have hallucinations, I probably would see what I'm seeing in my head. But
yeah, there have been some studies done on brain chemistry and people who have very vivid imaginations, like people who write fantasy fiction, and basically artists. And some studies have actually shown that the line between hallucination and imagination is very thin.
Yeah,
because you've trained your brain to so vividly create these manifestations that for you, it's almost like you're actually seeing them. Like I know, like when I'm trying to write a story or come up with an idea, I play through the entire scenario in my mind.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Yeah, there was a time when I would actually get up and I would act out the scene, and so for me, from an onlooker's perspective, I'm losing my mind.
That is true.
You know, like he's in this, like, where is he right now? And but for me, you know, it's all very vivid. Like I can tell you details that you know, maybe most people, I don't know, I'm sure a lot of people can come up with. But it's because you're training your brain to do that. Yeah.
But his was, but that,
his,
that'd be
was
different if you
literally
were
like he could not.
If you're
tell
writing
you.
a scene,
yes,
right,
and you are literally seeing the scene and can't tell the difference between reality and the scene that you're creating. Then
your brain just, I think his brain just couldn't function like that. It couldn't differentiate. So it was like, you want me to manifest this? Okay. Like his brain is just doing it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And not keeping it in his head. So maybe I don't know, maybe there was something about his the way his mind processed information that it did manifest itself visually for him.
My big thing is, I feel like if it was information that was kind of being beamed in, let's say
that's what some people claim, and that's kind of where we're going with this.
If I feel like if it was that case, he would have this vision of something and then want to figure out what it does. As opposed to
like they sent him the idea for this machine. He has no idea what it is.
Exactly.
But I have this machine in my head, or I can see
some
this
of the claims.
machine.
Exactly.
I don't know what it is.
That's what I think.
He builds it, turns it on. Oh, that's what it does.
Exactly.
It's like a cappuccino machine.
It's a world ender. Oh, okay.
Sweet. It's a blender.
So that's some of the claims that, or at least from him and other writers, is that that's what it was. So these ideas would literally flash into his mind, and immediately he had all the blueprints laid out. Like he knew how the machine worked. It wasn't like, oh, I have this idea for a machine. How would that work? And he goes through the process.
Right, which is generally how it works. Do build things. It's like, well, I have an end state.
Yeah.
I kind of know how to get there, but there's going to be trial and error before I get there.
Reverse engineering of you've been given something and you have to figure out how you got to that ending.
Right. But for him, it was instantaneous. He knew how to build it.
That's what makes me think he was just a smart person, not information getting fed into him. Because there are too many people that invent things that people go, how did you come up with that?
Yeah.
That it just kind of...
Yeah, he had a very peculiar mind. If he was given a problem in arithmetic or algebra, it was immaterial to him whether he went to the blackboard to work it out or whether he remained at his seat. His strange faculty permitted him to see a visioned blackboard on which the problem was written. Tesla's powers of memorizing were prodigious. A quick reading of a page gave him a permanent record of it. He could always recall before his eyes a photographic record of it to be read and could study at his convenience. Yes. It's like, so did you read the book? No, I'm just saving it for later.
Yeah. I'll get to it.
I'll get to it later. Study for Tesla was...
Wait, he had a photographic memory?
Yes. Almost to an extreme. Study for Tesla was a far different process. It was a far different process than for the average person. He had no need for a reference library. He could consult his mind. Any page of any textbook he had read, and formula, equation, or item in a table of logarithms would flash before his eyes. Let's see here.
You know what would be... Here's a weird sci-fi take that probably did not happen. Yeah. Imagine if that lightning storm... And this is going to get a little far-fetched, folks. The lightning storm was actually a time traveler and had implanted like a holographic chip into one of his eyes so that he, from the future,
was seeing
he was literally being projected these machines or technology or anything, and he was just like seeing it. I'm picturing like the Futurama iPhones.
Yeah.
And like that's
iPhone,
actually...
I feel like Time Cop would show up though. Like, hey, stop doing that.
Stop doing that.
Stop that now.
No. So, Tesla describes this from his childhood. During my boyhood, I had suffered from a peculiar affliction due to the appearance of images.
He loves the word peculiar.
Yes,
it's peculiar.
It's a correlation thing.
If they make a movie about this, it should be called A Peculiar Mind.
A Peculiar Mind. Which were often accompanied by strong flashes of light. So when these images appeared, there was also a strong flash of light.
Well, it has to turn on.
When a word was spoken, the image of the object designated would present itself so vividly to my vision that I could not tell whether I saw what I saw was real or not. Even though I reached out and passed my hand through it, the image would remain fixed in space. And then he goes on to describe
joke is sounding a little more serious.
It sounds like he still had a level head. Because
if he's putting his arm through it, he's got to realize
it's not
there's
real.
Not actually something there.
It sounds like he actually became accustomed to this.
Yeah.
Like it was just normal for him. He said, in trying to free myself from these tormenting appearances, I tried to concentrate my thoughts, and this is where we go into imagination, concentrate my thoughts on some peaceful, quieting scene I had witnessed. This would give me momentary relief. But when I had done it 2 or 3 times, the remedy would begin to lose its force. Then I began to take mental excursions beyond the small world of my actual knowledge. Day and night, in imagination, I went on journeys, saw new places, cities, countries, and all the time, I tried hard to make these imaginary things very sharp and clear in my mind. I imagined myself living in countries I had never seen, and I made imaginary friends who were very dear to me and really seemed alive. This I did constantly until I was 17, when my thoughts turned seriously to invention. Then, to my delight, I found I could visualize with the greatest facility. I needed no models, drawings, or experiments. I could picture them all in my mind.
What a peculiar mind.
Yes.
So please make that movie.
One really interesting theory that would maybe be fun to pull out of this was that what if his mind was literally existing in 2 places at once?
Like the Mandela effect.
Kind of.
His mind is just existing in these 2 different planes.
And he can't so the other version of himself is actually
creating
with these
things,
machines, and so his mind, because our minds do behave on a quantum level. It's not all just biology in the classical sense. So what if his mind was literally existed in 2 dimensions or in 2 parallel worlds at the same time? And he's just one of those rare people who couldn't differentiate between
he
the
wasn't
2.
Slipping between universe realities. He actually lived in them both and was experiencing them both at the same time.
See, my head's also thinking to a recent thing in X-Men, actually, with Moira, who she lives her life, she dies, and she reincarnates and lives her life again, but with her past knowledge.
Okay.
And it'd be very interesting if Nikola Tesla lived a life, actually invented these things, made these friends, did this traveling, then died, was reborn, and lived his life, but was experiencing this previous life he had.
And he couldn't tell the difference between the 2.
The difference between the 2.
Yes.
It's possible.
I like that.
Let's see.
Maybe he's here with us.
He's right there.
Several years later, Tesla was walking in the city park of Budapest with a friend when in a flash he solved the problem. The following is Mr. O'Neill's description of the occasion.
What's the problem?
Just a general problem. I can't read all of this today. It's a long.
What's the problem?
Suddenly, the animated figure of Tesla snapped into a rigid pose as if he had fallen into a trance. Szigeti spoke to him but got no answer. Again, his words were ignored. The friend was about to seize the towering, motionless figure and shake him into consciousness when instead Tesla spoke. So sometimes he would go into like a
trance.
Like a trance. Yeah. So, very strange.
It's tough being friends with Tesla. We're out at the bar, drinking. Suddenly he's talking about stuff that's not on the counter. Right. Goes into a trance.
Yeah. Tesla, what are you doing? It's called a Rubik's Cube. It's like, who's Rubik's?
And how did you get his cube?
Yeah, why did you take his cube?
Why did you turn it in such a strange way? So I'm going to read this article because I think you guys will enjoy this because it's a creepy article about Tesla.
All right, let's hear it.
But before we go on, do you think he was getting information from extraterrestrials, which is a very, very, very popular theory?
No. Right. Not at all.
They weren't just beaming information. They weren't like guiding, advancing human technology.
See, I feel like if it wasn't
he's the one,
they would never do that.
How do you know?
I know because
of, like, wait.
It's like I know from. I've said too much.
Let's be honest. When it comes to literally anything that goes through advancement, technology, science, anything like that, no one ever does it once. No one ever goes, you know what? We want to figure out if this is going to cure this. They do multiple tests.
Sure.
They have multiple people to experiment through, and this is too specific that we would have heard of other ones if it was something like this. Because if you are an advanced civilization, I doubt they're going to go, you know what, let's trust that society is going to listen to this guy.
Well, they didn't, though.
But that's just it. It's like, if they truly were advanced enough to beam information into our heads,
why only Tesla?
Why only Tesla? Why only this period in time? Why only... And also... Why, like the fact that it isn't just one beam and he knows everything. Right. They're throughout his life. Like that seems like
as
one of those
he learns.
Exactly.
Yeah, as he learns.
So maybe the aliens didn't want to blow up his mind.
Right.
With too much
information. I feel like we would have heard of other examples of
what if he's
things like
so
this.
You don't think he's reverse engineering
I think he's just
blueprints that aliens are giving him.
No. I think he's a smart man. I think he was a smart man that had hallucinations that was able to act on them because he was self-aware of his hallucinations.
Right. And so that his mind was always working on these problems.
Yes.
But when he felt like he could manifest a
Yeah.
Right. Maybe subconsciously he was working on the issues.
Exactly. It's just like how sometimes you may be thinking, we were talking about Brooklyn Nine-Nine earlier of how they do things and they just live life. Then all of a sudden, boom, I figured it out.
Right.
Like they weren't consciously thinking
it's not
of
conscious
it.
effort.
It was something that triggered it. And I think that this is a situation of just a very, very different version of that with a very intellectual person. Because I don't think this is the first time this has happened either.
No, I did that with World Peace the other day. It like came to me and then I just lost it. It's like, no, there it goes.
I have got it.
Oh wait. Where was I? Why did I walk into this room?
Which world was I thinking?
Yes. Okay. So
it's world peace, but on a different reality.
I thought this is a little bonus for this episode. This is like onlookers' experiences with Tesla.
Right. So. I do want to actually mention this because it relates to the previous one where you guys were saying, well, there would be labels and stuff like that. Like the things he made were using things that we have on Earth.
Correct.
Right.
So like. We've learned through our study of the solar system that each planet has its own unique elements and its own resources available, and
not every element known to the universe or that exists in the universe exists on Earth.
Yeah.
So
like, I just
the
feel like it was a smart
like,
person and not.
You can make this, and you could use that stuff over there.
Go. But it becomes such a
just like that.
Just like, wait. What has he got in his kitchen? You can do it with that. You can do it with that.
And see, the more that we talk about like the fact that if it was aliens doing this, the more it becomes, why would you do it for just one person?
Right.
Why, like,
I'll agree with that argument. Yeah. Why not
whole
a group of people?
Exactly.
Or everyone who happened to be born on that night.
Everybody
in an extreme lightning storm.
Yes.
Like, I
So
hate to say it, like,
yeah.
if Wakanda was a real place, then I would say, yeah, that could have been aliens to go,
Sure.
here's an entire society that has
it's-
advanced beyond everyone else.
Yes, it's a little more suspicious when 10 people are standing in a circle going, "Oh yeah, move that lever."
Yeah.
And you look in and there's
That would look
nothing.
odd.
There's nothing there. Like,
Yeah,
oh yes,
yeah,
it's a
yeah.
beautiful machine. Yeah.
And that was how the cappuccino machine was invented.
It was hallucinated. This is a story about Tesla.
All right, let's hear it.
And it says, but he won't tell us what he is trying for at Wardenclyffe. Wardenclyffe, July 16th, 1903. Hereabouts are intensely interested in the nightly electrical display shown from the tall tower and poles in the grounds where Nikola Tesla is conducting his experiments in wireless telegraphy and telephony. All sorts of lightning.
Known as a telephone.
Yes. All sorts of lightning were flashed from the tall tower and poles last night. For a time, the air was filled with blinding streaks of electricity, which seemed to shoot off into the darkness on some mysterious errand. The display continued until after midnight. This morning, workmen about the plant declined to say anything. It is understood that Tesla has a well more than 200 feet deep driven beneath the tower and that electrical waves are sent both underground and through the air. Mr. Tesla said last evening that the evidence of experiments which have been seen by the people of Wardenclyffe, near which his laboratory is located, have been going on for some time there, but they had no announcement to make at this time as to their character or the success that had been achieved. So it also goes on to, I believe it goes on to say, the people around the area, had they been awake instead of asleep at other times, would have seen an even stranger things. Someday, but not at this time, I shall make an announcement of something that I never once dreamed of. So basically, you got this wild scientist right outside your town.
And electricity shooting everywhere.
And he won't talk about it.
He's like, guys, it'll be fine.
It'll be fine. And people who work there.
And that's how the cappuccino machine is invented.
So these people in 1903 have this guy working outside their town with a crew.
Just lightning shooting all over the place.
With lightning shooting everywhere.
See,
It's kind of creepy. It's like
it's
like
like creepy,
a 1930s
the
horror
fact
film.
he
Keep screaming,
says-
it's alive.
It's alive.
The
Yes.
fact, though, that he says, I will say it at a later date, kind of makes me think, well, he saw something, tried it, it didn't work out the way he wanted, but he wants to keep his rep.
Right.
And he's like,
So
no,
he's
no,
like,
I'll tell
fake
you
it.
later.
He was
I'll tell you
faking it the
later
whole time, yeah.
until I actually figure out what I did.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know what I'm doing. That's why it's
Exactly.
shooting everywhere.
Ooh, that's not good. Let me turn that down.
And then later he put an orb around it, and you can now touch it, and the lightning goes to your fingers.
Yes. I think that
Like those lightning.
wasn't that one of his inventions?
Probably.
Or
Or related to the static orbs or
the
whatever.
static or whatever they're called. Yeah.
I don't actually know like everything
Yeah.
that Tesla invented.
I don't know
honestly,
everything
yeah.
that he made either. What the
Most people
hell?
don't. Most
Alien.
people don't know everything.
It's actually
that he
my cousin.
made. Yeah, there are a lot of other theories we could talk about with Tesla. We might even do a whole episode on Tesla.
I think we
should.
should. Yeah,
we should.
yeah.
U.S.
do a
Colonel.
script on him, too.
So this article comes from Disclose.tv. U.S. Colonel speaks about Roswell UFO crash. Circuit chips, fiber optics, and lasers are alien technology. Former Eisenhower intelligence officer exposes Roswell. Let's see here. No matter how many years ago by the conspiracy of what happened in Roswell, New Mexico seems not to die down. Now it would seem that an Army intelligence officer who served under President Eisenhower and witnessed the event firsthand has come clean in a new book along with an interview he gave regarding the book. This was written in 2016, so it is actually a new book. Colonel Philip Corso, who sat on the President's Security Council at that time, went into grave detail into what he saw. Corso gave detailed account to the fact that he saw dead bodies within wreckage in the crash seen at Roswell. He went into how the bodies had to be those of extraterrestrials due to the overall appearance of the carnage. He told, So in writing this book entitled The Day After Roswell, is Corso trying to profit off of his own conspiracy? He also goes on to claim in the book that things like, and I'll just cut to the chase, circuit chips, fiber optics, and lasers were all born from the Roswell crash, which corroborates with Bob Lazar's claim.
That is true. Interesting.
Yes, it is interesting.
So when there's enough conspiracy theories that like,
and this guy's
corroborate the same story, and the guy has stop being conspiracy theories,
and the guy has credentials.
Yeah.
You know, he's not again, not just some random crackpot.
Right. As far as we know.
It's not like that gynecologist that went to the Loch Ness.
That's right. Yeah.
The gynecologist. Well, yes.
I found it. I can't say necessarily that it's aliens.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Obviously, something happened. I mean, because Area 51 was used as a test facility for aircraft,
right?
Sonar, radar, all this stuff. So obviously that is true. Because they released all of the information, right? Area 51 guys. Obviously, they wouldn't have lied to us. They told us everything that was going on there. Now, did aliens crash there? I cannot 100% say that they did. I won't 100% say that they didn't. Because I do believe there are aliens out there, and it's possible they crashed in Area 51.
Yeah.
And like you said, all of our technology kind of came from around that time frame. So, I mean, I definitely understand the theory.
The foundations.
Yes, I definitely understand the foundations for the theory. And I'm not saying I don't believe in it. I'm saying I would still need more to prove. Now, the fact that two different people whose stories basically line up.
Yes.
Does lean very heavily into something crashed at Roswell. We did reverse engineer it. It did lead to our big technology boom.
Right.
Yeah.
Was it aliens? I don't know. Was it just the fact that, I mean, maybe it was Russians. Maybe it was something like that.
Atlantis.
And then Atlantis, sure. It was Wakandians.
I mean,
Wakandans?
Because, if you think about
Wakandans.
it, the UFOs, they would be water dynamic.
That is true.
Yeah.
Amphibious, yes.
So like I said, I would not 100% never discount this theory,
right?
But I'm not 100% on board with it either.
If it is true, you don't want to look like an idiot,
right?
Yeah,
they're like, there was aliens. Like, totally, no, I knew it, guys, the whole time. Yeah. But they come out, it's not true. You're like, well, I never believed it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but
I always knew they were wrong.
There's that healthy skepticism.
Yeah, I mean, it does. A lot of things do line up.
Yes, they do.
Yeah,
this could definitely be what happened.
Right.
Do I believe aliens were beaming knowledge into Tesla's head? Probably not. I think that's probably more like what you said. He was just a very smart guy, subconscious.
Yeah, his brain couldn't shut off.
His brain.
He had a peculiar mind.
Maybe he did tap into the stream of knowledge that courses through the universe, and that is where our technology, our advances come from, because they're flashes. It's possible. I just don't know. So
no, I agree. I don't think it's aliens. But I do think, especially with the Roswell crash, that it was something unfamiliar to us, and in the process of reverse engineering, we may, because like the other thing becomes, from what I can gather, we didn't necessarily get lasers and stuff like that from the ship itself. We got it from reverse engineering the ship,
the technology, and
or the stuff that was in it, which means, for all we know, it didn't have any of that, but the components that were used in it, we then
kind of combined them.
We reverse engineered, thought two things went together that didn't, and we discovered something else. It's just like you could
accidentally adding salt to chocolate. You're like,
that's exactly what I was going to say. Or like,
you got your peanut butter in my chocolate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Stuff like that, where it's like you can get the ingredients for this food, but if we gave it to Houston and didn't really tell him exactly what, he could make a completely different thing.
I like to see two scientists like walking next to each other. They bump into each other. You got your barium in my whatever.
Exactly.
Created a laser. Blew up that building.
But like that's kind of how I'm looking at it, as just we found things we were not familiar with, and in the process of reverse engineering, we created our own things. The understand, and then because then it branches off of there of the understanding of, well, those two created that. Well, now we know that. Let's try it with our other things moving forward. Things go from there.
And then we get telephones and computers and blah, blah, blah.
Exactly. You find that, because, I mean, sometimes you just need electricity. You find that one thing, and boom, everything starts like taking off, because you're like, okay, well, let's put that in this other thing we've had for a long time. I mean, who knows? Maybe if we went back and got Tesla's blueprints and used them with materials and resources we've got today, maybe we would get entirely different things than what he created because he simply didn't have the proper materials at the time.
Right.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. His imagination was more advanced than what was
his time. He was ahead of his time. Like,
yep. Well, I mean, the same thing could be said for like the warp drive. Scientists have essentially mathematically figured out. We just don't have the material. We can't produce enough dark matter.
Right.
To make,
find the Niblonians.
Yes. So we just can't produce enough dark matter to make a warp drive possible.
See, now I would love it if 30, 50 years from now we have interstellar travel, right? We're actually like going and colonizing other places, and they're like, all right, by the way, aliens landed at Roswell. Just so you guys know.
The first words out of an astronaut's mouth interacting with an alien race is, "Hey guys, it worked."
And they're like, "What took you guys so long? We just sent all that crap."
They got like a banner.
We sent you the ship fully functional. Why did you take it apart?
They've got a banner with like balloons. Like, guess what else we have here? Helium.
Anyway, here's a cappuccino machine.
I do have a question for you, because you seem often to avoid the extraterrestrial theories. Do you believe aliens exist?
Yes.
Okay. But you think that the likelihood...
I think that there's a difference between... I think there are too many things that people say, oh, aliens sent it to us as visions or stuff like that. And those are the things that I believe are completely untrue, because if we were to go to another planet or something, I look at it from the perspective of if we were the aliens. So if we were the aliens going to this other planet, one...
Why would we do that?
Why would we beam information into their heads? Why would we pick certain people? Why, like a spaceship crashing, that's one that I could potentially see because of the fact of, well, maybe we did try to land, but their atmosphere was different. We didn't have the calculations.
Something happened when we came in,
and we decided either that planet's resources are not worth our time, so we don't come back, or who knows, maybe they're still working on the calculations. Because, I mean... We've landed things on Mars, but we're still doing the calculations to figure out how to get people
there. We're just now figuring out how to make a helicopter work on Mars.
Exactly. Like there are things like that I from the perspective, I don't see us ever going to another planet and go, hey, let's beam some things into this random guy's head.
And send.
Exactly. Like,
no, hold on, my Wi-Fi's down.
No.
The one guy's just like, however, there is the theory that there is, I think we've talked about this on the show, that there is like a galactic federation or conglomeration of aliens, and they're waiting for us to be prepared
to be ready
be ready to join them. So that could be part of that preparation.
But see, that would also go against it, because that's not allowing them to prepare themselves. That's forcing knowledge onto another species.
Technically true.
So that's not you going, hey, we're going to let you in.
Plus, they keep making guns too. I don't know if we want them up here.
Yeah, I think to an extent.
I mean, in a way, it's cheating. It's going, hey, I'm going to show you my answers.
Right. But that also comes down to kind of my theory on the thing. One, I think someday we're going to crash land on another planet and they're going to reverse engineer our tech.
Probably.
It'll be a whole conspiracy. But no, that is...
I want 3 blue-skinned aliens at some point to be doing a podcast.
Oh, yes.
Talking about these weird, pale-skinned,
these pink
ape-like creatures.
Covered in hair. And
it's really weird. They're all wearing graphic tees for some reason.
And they're Glorp Dan. Denies all of it and says it's not
He's
real.
Like, no, there's no way it's aliens, guys.
Yeah. Well, Glorp Gary, reverse it. Okay, so that's kind of where I come in with this, like, reverse engineering theory, is that reverse engineering doesn't mean we're too stupid to make it ourselves. It means the opposite. The object is the object of inspiration, and it doesn't come with instructions. So we're not too dumb to come up with this technology on our own, on either side.
Yep.
Whether it's reverse engineered or not. If it is reverse engineered, we're smart enough to figure it out.
Yeah.
If it's not reverse engineered, we're still smart enough to figure it out.
To create it, yeah.
So I don't see it as necessarily like needing.
If anything, it could be a test from the aliens. Like, let's give them this, see what they figure it out.
That would make sense with the Roswell. Cappuccino machine.
Cappuccino machine.
That's the peak of alien technology. By the way.
That test with the Roswell would make sense, but if we were to use that same logic for the Nikola Tesla beaming in,
right? Yeah.
I think it would more have
literally
gone
just
in
spoon feeding.
Yeah, that's literally.
I
spoon
feel
feeding.
like it would have been more of a he has a vision of something, and then figures out how to make it work.
I'll give you that.
Has the vision of how it all works.
I'm not saying
that
Nikola Tesla definitely was, and I don't think he was getting beamed.
No,
right.
Technology by aliens.
It's a popular theory, but I don't think.
I don't think so. I just think he was a smart guy.
Yes.
Now, if that lined up with calm down, with the rest of the the Area 51s and the rivers, what was it, Lazar.
Bob Lazar,
and then the Colonel. If it was the same idea, sure, all right, that would lend more credence to that. But
or if this ship that crashed in Roswell had the exact things that Nikola Tesla was working on,
sure,
then I'd be
then
like,
it starts lining up better.
Yep. There's a whole Stargate episode basically about this whole theory.
Always comes back to Stargate or Star Trek.
It does, where the original alien, the Asgard, would not reveal themselves to this colony of humans until they could figure out what pi was.
Interesting. Okay.
On a cave wall
to prove that they were smart enough.
Finally smart enough to So
interesting.
Old theory, it's been around for decades. Yeah, that we're being tested. So final thoughts.
It's Atlantis.
Final thoughts.
Pretty much what I just all said.
My final thoughts are that it's an endless cycle of crashed alien spacecraft on other planets.
They just keep crashing.
There's a student driver.
Every time.
What do you think it's this?
Someone crashes, they still got their blinker on.
Every advance.
On the bumper it said student driver.
But we can't read it because it's not in our language.
A different language.
Yes. Must be a military vehicle of some kind.
Turns out it was
Russian?
An alien minivan.
So every advance in technology for every race in the universe is a crash landing.
Interesting.
Yes.
I feel like all of our technological advances throughout the entirety of history.
Yes.
Fire, aliens.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
The wheel, aliens.
Aliens. Yeah.
Firearms, aliens.
Paper, the Chinese.
The Chinese.
Yes.
Pretty much the same thing.
Hey, we got to give ourselves something here.
Okay. That was the Chinese. Those guys are smart.
Those guys are smart.
Oh my God.
Printing press, Chinese.
Cappuccino
Compass,
machine,
Chinese.
The French.
aliens.
Fireworks, gunpowder, Chinese.
But they got it from the aliens. Yeah.
What else did they invent?
They've invented a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
What, China?
The Chinese.
Yeah,
Well, I mean,
their
their dynasty has been around
I was going to say they invented a lot of stuff.
They crashed.
Maybe.
Okay.
They're the aliens.
Thank you.
Yes.
Maybe it's like a Wakanda situation.
Yes.
But it's the Chinese.
They just didn't have the Mirage technology. That's why
That's
they
what
have
it
the wall.
was.
Yeah, the wall.
That's what the wall was. I saw that Matt Damon movie.
Yeah. All right. So let us know what you think in the comment section below. Is our current state of technology reverse engineered from alien technology? Did it start in the 1940s? Did Tesla receive information from extraterrestrials? Are we going to crash land in alien Roswell someday?
Yes.
Maybe.
Yes.
Student drivers, beware.
Actually, you know what? Our next episode is just going to be about Tesla.
Okay.
It's all about Tesla.
It's all
like
Tesla all the time, baby. But just the cars. We're going to be talking about the cars.
I want to know if there are other people like Tesla in history. If you can find,
I'm sure.
I'm just curious,
top 10 Teslas that weren't Tesla.
Exactly.
There's a script for it.
There's a script. Yeah.
Let's
That's
Tesla this Tesla.
Yeah.
We're going to Tesla this. It's going to be awesome.
People are going to show up and in the comments be like, wait, this isn't about the car
at all.
Not at all.
They're going to
it's kind of become synonymous with
pretty much most people, most modern people now, when you say Tesla, they think about the cars.
Yep.
They don't, not the weird scientist.
That's actually what Elon Musk wanted all along.
Yeah, different weird scientist.
Elon Musk.
That's what he wanted all
along. Is Nikola
along.
Tesla reincarnated?
Yes, through the Akashic field with the assistance of extraterrestrials. You heard it here first on Tales of Earth. You can find Andy.
I am Glorp Andy at 4IamTheAndy on Instagram.
I am Glorp Dan, Dan T Producer on Twitter and Instagram, and Dan T Streamer on Twitch. Ran out of breath.
And I'm Glorp Gary on Film Circuit at YouTube. at Film Circuit on YouTube. I can't get this Earth language correct. And on Twitter at Film Circuit and Instagram at Northward Films. Thank you for watching, and yeah, thank you.
Glorp, everybody.
Nice.